So a little known fact about Rome that almost no one knows about Rome unless you studied Rome and you're a Romanologist. Rome had a practice of literally having an artist patron in every household. Boy, do I feel like an idiot. I've known this. I've known this. Now I know why. I feel like an idiot. It was a common practice in Rome that every household had an artist that was patron of the arts that would stay with the family as an adopted member of the family. Good fucking God. Why didn't I ever ask why? Every member of the Senate had a house patron. The house patron was literally a patron of the arts that was adopted and they took care of them. My fucking God, Rome had it figured out. Of course, Rome had it figured out. Oh my God. So what they were really doing was they were literally housing the conduit inside their own house to literally nurture the human connection between the family members. It never fucking occurred to me. You need an artist in the household in order to be a conduit, and everyone took care of the artist. And if you didn't have an artist, then you went out and you found one and you brought them into the house. You gave them food, room, shelter, board, and they gave you music, art, song, dance, communication, because they required the conduit. This was a common Roman practice that was so commonly practiced that it is what you just did. It was part of their culture because they understood the value of what art was. Not the art, but its purpose. I really feel like an idiot not drawing this connection much sooner. I'm like, oh my God, a Roman patron. Literally a Roman art patron. Right, yeah, it's boom right there. A Roman art patron, patronage in ancient Rome. It's a thing. Oh. There is so much information about this. And I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was a luxury. I'm like, oh, that must be nice to be so wealthy that you can just hire artists on hand. No, they didn't. It was the conduit within their home. So that if you wanted to connect, you needed to have somebody who played, somebody who was in there. So if you wanted to be an artist, what you were really doing was going, I'm going to go live with another family. A family is going to adopt me, and I'm going to be the conduit of their communication in their household. That's what it was. And there were levels. How much you got paid was dependent upon your skill. So if you were an apprentice, poorer families would have apprentices. Here's how it would work. If you were a lower class family, you would have an apprentice patron. And then when their skills increased, then a family of a higher financial institute would then hire you, and you would move on to a higher paying family. And then they would just get another apprentice. And then the next family, that person would max out their trade. They would max out and become a master bard or a master artist. And then they would move on from that household to another. So literally a single artist would move between 4 different households, from apprentice to tradesman to master, and then on to a philosopher. That's when you went to work for kings. That's when the king said, okay, I'm going to pay you pretty penny. That's what Michelangelo was. They were patrons because you required one in your court to connect people. And your room and your board and everything was taken care of because you required to have one in the household for being a conduit, for bringing everybody together. We didn't have, it makes sense now. You didn't have television. You didn't have a radio station. You didn't have books. God, I feel like an idiot. You didn't have books until the 15th century, and even then most people couldn't read them because no one was allowed to learn how to read. That was a privilege only the clergymen were allowed. So no one could read. No one could play music. These were things of scholars. So there were no music. People couldn't sing. Well, they could dance and they could drink, but you could play. So you required a patron. And depending upon your level, told you which household took care of you. Good fucking God. It took me way too long to make this connection. When we went into the dark ages, we lost the artists. We literally took out the artists. There was no more patrons. And this is the other thing that's just like my brain. I'm going, oh my fucking God. When you look at what Alexandria was actually teaching, it was bard school. It was literally, it was all of it. It was the accumulation of, all right, we're going to teach you how to be the artist. You're going to teach you how to do, like, literally it's art, and then it's storytelling, communication, history. Okay, now we're going to plug in and bring science into it. And it was education for the sake of being a patron. So you had two options. When you decided, okay, so, and this is it. When you decided to become an artist, what you were really deciding to do was become a Renaissance man. That's what an artist was. You were a Renaissance man. You took in all the story, all the telling. This is why Da Vinci was an inventor, a painter, and everything. This is why Michelangelo was able to do what he did in art. These are people who did not just paint. These were people who had learned the entire full spectrum of education, which is what I did. It's ontological studies. It's Renaissance man. Because when you have them all together, then you can do one of two things. You can go on and make connections like this. You can become a philosopher and teach others, or you become a patron and you literally go to live. It's like a nanny. Oh my fucking God, it was a nanny. Like, instead of hiring tutors, like 10 tutors for one child, you just catch yourself an artist. And that person was responsible for teaching all the education in the entire household. And that's what I'm doing with my own kids, is I've taught them how to think. I've taught them how to explore. I've given them the resources, and it's all right. So my kids are learning ontological studies. They're learning like the uber Alexandria curriculum, in addition to the bullshit that the state has them learn, which is laughable. So this is the education my children are getting. My daughter's watching TV and she's pulling out massive essays. She wrote an essay on Walking Dead yesterday, analyzing narcissism with Shane. I got home from the bar yesterday and I had a paper that she'd written on Shane's narcissism on The Walking Dead. And then I got the tour. I got to sit there and rewatch that fucking asshole re-kill people. And I'm going, why am I watching Shang and Lori again? And she's sitting there like, yes, but look. And she's pausing it. And she's going up there and she's like, look, this is his narcissism. And you can see how he's using the leverage and making sure that he secures his equal footing to destroy the equal footing of others so he gets the advantage. Yes, you've learned very well. Can we watch the show now? And I've got the essay. And now she's doing this, and I'm going, all right. So this is the kind of shit that I teach in my house. It's awesome. But this is patrons. This is how it was done. And I'm just like, I just thought they were flaunting their money. I'm like, okay, they must just be rich. And what else do you do when you're rich? No, that's how you learn. God, I feel like an idiot. That's how they learned in Rome. There were no schools. You got a patron from Alexandria. And the patron would come in and move into the household, and it was like a full live-in nanny. And if it was apprentice, well, then you got an apprentice one. And then you ordered a tradesman one. And it completely was reflecting upon how well, but that's how you took care of the artists. That's a bard. And it was like your education. It was your scholarship. It was everything. And then there are people going, I want to be a bard too. And the artists would go to Alexandria. They would learn how to be a philosopher bard. And then they would go and they would find patrons and they would take you in. And then the patrons would put you through the process and they would make sure that you have room, food, board, everything with literally your own house. Like in some of the more extravagant places, you had your own living quarters. And your job was to play at parties, was to compose music for the families, paint pictures for the families. Like, it was a full, here's your art and your culture. Absolutely. Why did it? Good God, it took me way too long to draw this connection. So And we lost that when we lost Alexandria. Alexandria was not cranking out philosophers. Yes, it was. It was cranking out bards and artists. That's why, thank you, Plato, there were 9 arts on his curriculum and 5 sciences. I could not figure that out. I'm like, 9. I'm like, dude, 9. And they were like, 1 for every muse. I'm like, wow, he's got a lot of like epic poetry here. Like, it was mind blowing. I'm like, okay, so, and that was in 1995. Because in 1995, our US government was going, oh, art sucks, we're going to cut the department. And I'm going, Plato disagrees. So either our US government is smarter than Plato, or Plato knew his shit. So which one is right and which one's wrong? Because now you're contradicting each other. I went with Plato. I really went with Plato. So I'm looking at it going, we really, culturally, societally, we are fucking idiots when it comes to what art is and what it's supposed to do for a culture, how it's supposed to work. And they had it figured out in the Roman Empire. They had, and thank you, the Dark Ages. Like, thank you, the Dark Ages. And that's just it. We've been living without art for 1,500 years. We've been living without art for 1,500 years. And we're all sitting here now cutting more of the art departments going, yeah, art is shit. How's your war going? And the artists in the back having their fucking party. They're going, hey, we got to figure it out, guys. And they're all there having their great time. Ireland's set. They're good. And I'm going, all right, Ireland, I love you people. But the rest of the world is at war. And it's like, you want to know what art does? Art ends war. That's what it does. Art ends war. That's what art does. It ends war because it increases communication so you understand each other, so you don't fight. Art ends war. You don't like war? Art. That's what art does. You know who hates art? Warmongers. Warmongers hate art. Nazis. Nazis hate art. They do. They burned it, those fucking assholes. Nazis hate art. Come on, people. All right, I'm done now. I'm done now. All right. That's my point, though. Warmongers are the fucking assholes who hate art. And why? Because then they don't get to fight. Because art ends war. That's what art does. All right. All right. This is going to completely change what I do with the healing garden when it comes to art. Like, I got plans and I'm like, oh yeah, art is going to be like, yeah, I got plans now. Like, this is going places. Thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.